Football is back, and BetMGM is inviting new customers to join the huddle and enjoy the action like never before. Sign up today using bonus code CAPITAL, and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. You'll also have instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, player props, and boosted odds specials. Just download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com and enter bonus code CAPITAL and place your first wager risk-free up to $1,000. The BetMGM app is the perfect way to experience the excitement of wagering on live sports now in more markets than ever. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years of age or older to wager. Washington, D.C. only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Blue Wire.
First pick in the 1991 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Larry Johnson from University.
I'm not supposed to be here, man. A lot of people from where I'm from, don't make it.
Charlotte, we're back.
All right, thanks for tuning in to another Buzz Beat, a Charlotte Hornets podcast. This is Richie, and I am back for another interview episode. In the past, we've had Hornets from all different types of eras. We've got to talk to Kenny Gaddison from the early days, Eddie Robinson from the late 90s, early 2000s. We've even had an interview with current Hornets big, PJ Washington, but we've never had a Charlotte Bobcat until now. So I'm excited to talk to our next guest, former Charlotte Bobcats point guard and current Memphis Grizzly color commentator, Brevin Knight. Brevin, thanks for joining. How's it going?
Oh, going well. Thanks for having me. And I'm glad. Let's see, I was on the inaugural Bobcats team, and now I'll be the inaugural Bobcat interview. So I'm batting 1,000 here.
That's right. That's right. Well, I appreciate your time. And before we get too deep into this, I need to know an honest answer here with this one question. And I'm not sure if it's something that you guys talked about as players, but what were your thoughts on naming the team the Bobcats after the owner, Bob Johnson? Was that ever something that got brought up among players?
No, I honestly, I don't think any of us talked about it. The biggest talk for us at that time, honestly, was what the hell was that logo? That was, at that time, we didn't know if it was the cat running away, was the cat streaking down the court. I think that more than anything, what was it?
Yeah. The logo was not great too. There's a couple teams in the NBA that I feel like need a rebrand. OKC kind of has a weird logo. I'm just like, what is that? But I think winning cures a lot of things, and I think when you have an expansion team that struggles to win, and then you got the logo on top of it, it makes it hard to kind of get into it. And I think the Bobcat era in Charlotte seems to be a forgotten time more than anything. I think reliving it with someone like you is the best way to go about this. And I think people in Charlotte had some mixed emotions with that expansion team because of how the previous ownership had left. But as a player, what were your feelings and emotions like experiencing an expansion team? Because not many players can say that they've played, in year one of an expansion team.
Well, it was unfortunately, it was my second year one of an expansion team because I started the Memphis Grizzlies when they moved from Vancouver to Memphis. I was the first their inaugural season. I was there, and then to do it with Charlotte. And just to contrast the two, coming to Memphis, it was because it was a team moving from somewhere and it was a brand new situation in Memphis. It was a lot of hoopla. It was fanfare, and people were excited. Still had to compete with with Memphis State at that time because that's what everyone knew, and that was the big time basketball sell. But it was still a love of basketball for the Grizzlies. Starting the Bobcats, there was I would say there was a two dynamics working. There were people that were excited to have basketball, but there were a large number of people who had wanted nothing to do with NBA basketball. And a lot of that had to do with, as you said, the the previous ownership and the Hornets leaving and what had to happen. But so you would get some people who were happy. We would go out and do community service. One quick example. We're at grocery store. I think, what do we have? Harris Teeter is in Charlotte. Yeah. We're at Harris Teeter and we're just kind of bagging groceries. And we had a customer say, I don't want you to bag my stuff because I don't support anything with the NBA. And I was like, I mean, you might not support the NBA. We just put stuff in bags. It's not, but that just to show you how strong of a feeling you had from someone on that end, but someone on the other end that was just excited to say, oh, basketball was back again. So it was a funny dynamic, but everyone within the organization understood how big of a task it was in front of them. And yes, playing and wanting to win games was big, but really just trying to get basketball and the enthusiasm around NBA basketball was a bigger goal than just the wins.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that was a challenge to kind of get the people back in Charlotte to love basketball again on the NBA level. And I think, expectations as an expansion team are just a little bit different than, an established team. And, it's your job as a player to go out there, compete, do your job. And having been in the playoffs before, and I think you guys were coming off a playoff appearance with the Bucks in the season prior, how frustrating was it to be on an 18-win team?
For me, it wasn't frustrating because it was the first time I got an opportunity since my rookie year to kind of play like myself. Was just to go and be Brevin, create plays for other ones, take mid-range jump shot, get steals. But it was I hadn't had freedom to play in the NBA until that point. So selfishly, basketball-wise, I just was so enthused to be, number one, playing because I was almost out of the league at that point. So that was a joy. But then to just the style, to play for Bernie Bickerstaff at that time was a godsend for me personally and for my career. And so I didn't look at it as hard coming from Milwaukee because I only was in Milwaukee for maybe 2 months, played the end of the year, played the playoffs. So there was no real big connection to them. But coming to Charlotte and having an opportunity to play was bigger to me than being on a playoff team and being a contributor.
Because you were signed with the Bobcats. You weren't necessarily part of the expansion draft, correct?
No, I was signed as a free agent and as a partial guarantee contract. My contract wasn't guaranteed until January 1.
Wow. Probably motivated you a little bit more, right?
Well, it did, man, because you can start to become complacent when you start to get years in the NBA and you think that next year is another year. And it's another year until that contract runs out and nobody's calling you. And then it's like, oh shucks, you gotta continue to work at this. And so that's why I said that time for me, I don't have anything negative to say about Charlotte. Number one, I love the city, still love the city to this day. And what Bernie and Bob Johnson and everyone in the front office, what they allowed me to do was have a chance. And with that chance, I was able to turn it into 6 more years of basketball. And so it was a fun time. It was tough, but I loved helping guys that were younger, wanting to try to figure it out in the league. And I tell people, it was almost like college basketball at the NBA level. Just a bunch of guys running around every night trying to win when we knew we didn't have anywhere near enough to win games.
Football is back, and BetMGM is inviting new customers to join the huddle and enjoy the action like never before. Sign up today using bonus code CHAMPION, and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. You'll also have instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, player props, and boosted odds specials. Just download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com and enter bonus code CHAMPION to place your first wager risk-free up to $1,000. The BetMGM app is the perfect way to experience the excitement of wagering on live sports now in more markets than ever. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years of age or older to wager. Virginia only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-888-532-3500.
Every deep playoff run starts with building an amazing team. Doing the same for your business doesn't take a room full of scouts. You just need Indeed. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Something I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy because with virtual interviews, Indeed saves you time. You can message, schedule, and interview top talent all in one place. Indeed knows that when you're growing your business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why when you sponsor a job, you only pay for quality applications from resumes in our database matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/Blue Wire to start hiring today. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Well, speaking of one of those younger players, the Rookie of the Year, Emeka Okafor, he won over Ben Gordon. He won over Dwight Howard. Can you speak to Emeka Okafor as a player? Because a lot of what he did seemed very basic and unexciting to most fans.
It was because his game was more robotic than a fluid game. And at that time, remember, he was athletic, physical, but he was raw in terms of his skills. And so a lot of his baskets were lobs up top, one or two dribbles. I just jump higher than you, little jump hook. And so it was just a matter of having to hone those skills as his time went along. But in terms of a hard worker, someone that came in every day, did his job, took care of his body. He took care of his body to the point that it pissed all of us veterans off because we would have to wait too long after road games for him to do all of the stuff that he did post game. And so I think that it was an acknowledgement of how good he was, but I also think it acknowledged how much we as a team, an 18-win team, didn't have much. We still went out every night and we played hard, and that put him in a position to be successful, and it put a lot of the rest of us in a position to have better careers down the road.
Speaking of a player that played really hard, you played about 150 games together with Gerald Wallace. His nickname was Crash. He is probably one of the most adored players ever in Charlotte, whether that's a Hornet or a Bobcat. Did he compare to any of the other players you've ever played with in your career, just like his play style?
No, Gerald was different because he and I had a similar defensive mentality. He just could do more things defensively because he was bigger and much more athletic than I was. But then on the offensive end, he was another guy who you would say, what was his skill set? Skill set was pretty much he did everything, a little bit of everything. But he just played so hard that it made whatever skill he had, it made it go up another notch because he played so hard. And so it was fun to be with him because you think we had a country boy in Gerald. I'm a city kid from Jersey, two guys that spoke different languages. But when we stepped on the floor, or we came to the gym, or even when we went out to dinner, we were both on the same page and how we saw life, how we saw basketball. And so I can't compare him to anyone else that ever played because to put his body through what he did on a nightly basis, to play through injuries the way that he did, and just his love of defense, the way that I love defense. It was fun, and times that those 3 years I cherished all of those moments because you don't get those all the time.
Yeah, and even with the injuries and everything like that, he still did not change his style whatsoever, and it was interesting to watch as a fan. Now, in your second season, the team drafted Raymond Felton, and what's interesting about that year, you and him actually led the team in total minutes played, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys even played beside each other for significant.
Yeah, we started together.
Yeah. And as a veteran, knowing that they drafted Raymond Felton, how do you balance like showing him the ropes while also trying to keep your job as a point guard?
Well, it's like I always tell people, man, we pay it forward. That's just kind of what you do. When I came into the league, I tell people, Scotty Brooks was kind of like the vet point guard when I went into Cleveland. And he was a guy that he could have been upset or could have wanted more playing time. Bob Sawyer, who was there just a couple of years, young guy who was playing point guard. Both of those guys could have been selfish, but neither was. And so that was kind of how I learned what you do for younger guys. And so I can help you and show you things. If I'm not good enough to be out there, I'm not going to be out there. But in my mind, I know I'm good enough to be out there. So to help you is not hurting me. Right. It's only going to help our team get better. But it also, maybe I can help you as your career moves forward. At that time, we are now talking about I'm year 8 of my career. I understand where this is going. I'm not dumb. You drive because there's a future with this. But again, I told you, I just love living in Charlotte. And I told Mike and then everybody in the front office was, even when my contract got to the end, I was fine with coming off the bench because it would have been, at that point, would have been year 9 or 10 for me. And I would have just wanted to play the last couple of years, finish playing in Charlotte, and then live in Charlotte and then go from there. Now, things didn't work out that way, but I had no feeling other than you better work your behind off this summer to come back next season ready to play, to show the young fella, I'm going to help you get better, but I still hoop also while trying to help you.
Yeah, so you and him obviously were very good with your distribution and setting your teammate for open looks and stuff like that. Some nights you'd have 14, 15, 16 assists, and it's just kind of unheard of to see that these days. Now, you also cover a pretty good point guard in Memphis. What do you think is the number one quality for a point guard that they must have for the team to be successful?
You got to have respect to your teammates. The game, listen, if you weren't good, you wouldn't be at the level that you're at. But what you have to do is be able to get everyone to play hard every night, and they need to believe that everything you say and do is in the best interest of the team. And when you can do that at the professional level, it puts you in a position to be able to, for your teams to have success in order to win. It's a position I tell people you can't just put anybody in that position. That's Bronx. Sorry, those are my 2 dogs. They don't go anywhere that I don't go. If I'm in the house, they're around. It's a position I tell people, it's not just because you can dribble the ball and maybe I can make a pass doesn't make you a point guard, because you need to be able to think, am I making this pass to the right person? And that leads to the next pass. Do I get him in a position? Who gets the ball now? There's so many other thinking parts of the position that are more than just physical that I think leads to those guys being the elite ones. And I say it because whenever you get to the playoffs, you always start hearing every announcer, every person on TV, every analyst that'll say, boy, if they had a point guard, it would help this team. But you'll never see a team go out and sign a point guard to that type of to think of that importance to a team if it's not just a big name person.
Yeah.
So that's why I always tell people, wait till you get to the playoffs and to winning time, how much they start talking about the importance of a point guard, not just a guy that dribbles the ball.
Yeah. I mean, they're very similar to a quarterback in football in terms of like the leadership role that they have to take on. Before we shift over to what you're doing now in Memphis, and you might have spoken to this already, but when you look back on your 3 seasons with Charlotte, like what's the one thing that you might take away the most?
I'd say it's college and the NBA.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of guys that at the end of the day, we had a chip on our shoulder and we wanted to prove that we belonged in the NBA. And we had the best head coach, the best leader that you can ask for when you have young men in that situation in Bernie Bickerstaff. And so it was a life-changing moment for me to be in Charlotte, as I say, on and off the floor. And 3 years that I always point to. People say, what are the best times in the league? Playing in Cleveland, I was drafted. We had 5 rookies on the team at one time. You don't get a chance to enjoy life playing that way. And then my next one is when I went to Charlotte.
Wow.
And it'll always be that way. And you think about it, Charlotte wasn't about winning. It wasn't about winning games. It was about everything else that made me feel good about being a pro.
And you were a pro until you were about 33 years old, and now you're a color commentator for the Grizzlies, and you've been doing that for some time now. Was that something that you always wanted to do, or did it like hit you late in your career? Like you realized, okay, I don't want to fully remove myself from the NBA scene. Maybe I want to try this out.
Yeah, I started doing with the NBPA, the Players Association. They have programs, post-playing programs that they offer every summer. And I went through and did 3 or 4 of the different programs just trying to see what would be an interest of mine when I was done. And I did the broadcast program and just absolutely fell in love with it. And then started to think more about doing it. And like you said, I wanted to still be close to the game, but I knew that I didn't want to coach because I did not want to have this run my life anymore as it had run my life for 30 years. I wanted to enjoy my family. I wanted to enjoy 7 months on, 5 months off. What can I do? I couldn't be a teacher. For everyone that's a teacher, I tell them that you guys are underpaid, underappreciated. I'm not going to let anyone say anything negative about one teacher because none of us are capable to do what y'all do on a regular basis and have as much influence on young people as you have. So I said, I got to figure out the NBA or something in this realm. And so to still be able to talk the game, teach it, have fun, be around it. It fit because it allowed me to use my educational background, but it also allowed me to use my basketball background, and it brings both of those worlds together.
I got a question here. What arena outside of the one in Memphis is your favorite to visit, whether it's like the amenities or just maybe the atmosphere? Can you choose one?
Oh, the Garden. It's not. We don't have to go any further, and that's being a Jersey kid. The Garden to us is the mecca of basketball, and it's still when we go to call. So now I call games. We sit center court, right across from the scorer's table, amongst all of the stars that come to the games, and so the atmosphere of just being the Garden itself. When with the lights going off on the crowd and the lights are just on, it's as if you're on a theater. This is you. You are the show, and then to have everyone around and see, it's just there's no atmosphere better than that, and no seat better in any arena than that.
Yeah, I guess I thought you would have gone a newer one, but I guess the atmosphere probably trumps all of that stuff. So,
oh yeah, because here's the thing for me, all of those amenities of a new arena, I don't get to. It's nothing to me. We drive in the back, we come in through the back door underneath, walk onto the floor. The good things for me at this point, do I have a good sight line to see the game? Of course, we're moving up a little bit higher. We're eventually in every arena will be at the top of the lower bowl. As long as we stay center court somewhere around there, I'm happy. Hate Philadelphia, hate Washington because we're almost behind the baseline up high to try to call games. And then other than that, is your media room good? Is your food good? I love going to Detroit. The best media room by hands down in the league is going to Detroit.
Interesting insight there. Put your analyst hat on for a second, and I want you to make the case that the Grizzlies can make it to the Western Conference Finals. You know what all has to happen for that team to get there.
First and foremost, health. That's every team needs that, but health of your major players, and Jaren Jackson Jr. being that. Listen, Ja Morant is one of the most electric players in the game and can get a basket, get where he wants to at any time. Eventually, that means that defenses shift to now you're playing against double and triple teams. You need your running mate. Jaren Jackson Jr. is his running mate. And so for him to be healthy all year, for him to have a great year again on the offensive and defensive end is going to be good. But everybody that's in their second and third year are going to be good. Zaire Williams, going to be good. Desmond Bane's going to have to be good. Brandon Clark just signed a new deal. Is going to be good. Because they didn't make any moves in terms of bringing in anyone extra other than the rookies they drafted, they're predicating their season on everyone getting better this year. But the other thing they'll lean on is the camaraderie of doing this now for 3 years, 2, 3, 4 years together. And so I think that's what gives them a little bit of an edge to still be able to contend with the top teams, put themselves back in a position to be at the top of the Western Conference and have a chance of winning the Western Conference Finals. The other thing I give them is their depth that they've been able to use and put on the floor, as they showed last year, is going to be another key component as to why they can have success.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Desmond Bane out of college, and he's actually exceeded my expectations. And you're right, the internal development of those players definitely needs to step up, and I have no doubt that can actually happen over there in Memphis. But before we end this, I would like to end on 5 Bobcat trivia question. Are you good with trivia?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I am awful. I'm awful with trivia, but I'm gonna do my best.
Okay, I will say that these involve like the time that you were there, or it involves teammates. It's not like, some obscure one. This first one might be the most. All right, question 1. After a 6-month process, the Bobcats were officially announced as the new name of the team in June of 2003. Which of these was not a finalist in the naming contest? So Bobcats obviously won. Here are your options: Dragons, Spirit, Flight.
The Dragons one.
Unfortunately, Brevin, Dragons was in the running. It was between the Dragons, the Flight, and the Bobcats. Spirit was actually the one.
Spirit wasn't.
Yeah, that actually was going to be the name of the original franchise back in 1988 before they named it the Hornets.
So. Hornets. And then that's why I stayed with Spirit. I stayed on the whole flying flying thought process. But I guess Dragons, they say Dragons fly.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, question 2. This one involves you. 24 times a player in a Bobcats uniform has had 15 or more assists in a single game. Of those 24 games, how many times does your name appear? So 15 or more assists in a single game. It's happened 24 times. How many times does your name appear of those 24?
And now, are those 24 all Bobcats?
They're all Bobcats.
No Hornets.
They're all Bobcats.
Okay, it's all Bobcats. So I would say that I got to maybe be 10 of those.
Wow, you're more than that. 18 of the 24.
Wow.
So
I did. Listen, know what my mantra was. I tell everybody, I feed my kids on assists.
The other 3 players in Charlotte Bobcat history that recorded 15 or more assists were Felton, Kemba Walker, and Jason Hart.
And Jason Hart, that's who I came when I came to the Bobcat. That was Jason Hart. He was supposed to be the starter. He and Omar Cook from St. John's. And Bernie said, if you can beat these guys out, I'll give you a job.
Did Omar Cook make the team? Why don't I recognize that? Okay.
Didn't make the team. He came out. He was he came out as a freshman from St. John's. Never really made it in the NBA.
Gotcha.
One of the young guys that probably needed more time in college.
Gotcha. Okay, we got 3 more questions here. Let's hope we can get 1 or 2 right.
I got it. Come on.
All right.
Come on, Brevin.
Who scored the first ever point for the Charlotte Bobcats, which actually was assisted by you?
First basket, let's say Chuck did. Emeka did.
No, Primo.
I forgot about it probably was on a pick and pop, too. Because Primo did not roll to the basket at all.
Oh, man. He was
0 for 3.
0 for 3. He was underrated, I thought.
Oh, very shucks. Listen, but he and Jason Capono, those were my big assists. And I always, whenever I see Matt Carroll, I always say, just all I want you to say to me every time I see you is, thank you, Brevin. That's all I want you to say. Whenever you see me, just say thank you, Brevin.
All right, question 4. The Charlotte Bobcats won their first game on November 6th to even the record to 1-1. What team did you and the Bobcats win against?
2 days before my birthday. Let's say that we beat the Nets.
Oh man, magic. You got too many games under your belt to kind of remember these things.
Well, here's the thing. I got too many teams. I got 9 teams that I played for, and now I am my 13th year in doing broadcasts. This
bleeds together.
And I got three kids, 24, 21, 18, and a wife. my brain is fried on those at those in terms of being particular.
Yeah. What's funny,
I'm ready though.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking back on that Orlando Magic team, and Steve Francis and Cuttino Mobley were teammates on the team. I totally forgot that they were teammates in Orlando. I mean, everyone knows them, associated with the Rockets, but
but back in Orlando.
All right, last question. Let's try not to go 0 for 5. So we're speaking of the 2004 season, okay?
Okay.
Steve Nash had 246 assists to Amari Stoudemire. That led the league for that combo, Nash to Stoudemire. You were actually 12th in the NBA with the highest assist combo to one specific teammate with 125 assists. Who was that teammate that you assisted on 125 made baskets in 2004, 2005?
Well, I'm going to go back with Primo.
He was second. It was Emeka Okafor.
See, I had this
flip-flopped.
I had them flip-flopped.
Here you go.
See, I would have thought that Chuck would have scored early because we would have threw it inside, want to get an easy basket. Let's just get something going towards the rim. Give it to Chuck. Now, if you say, but what we ran so well and what got me so many assists was Primo said great screens. I turned hard. It just pops back one step. Yeah. Make sure we got Capono or Matt Carroll on that weak side so they don't help. Throw it back to Primo, and he just used to lace it up.
Yeah, he was second on the list here, just 11 assists behind Okafor. So 125 assists to Okafor, 114 assists to Primo. So, all right, Brevin, this was fun. I enjoyed talking to you, and I really do appreciate the time. Thanks again.
No, thanks for having me, and then I'll work on that trivia. I got to be better.
I was hoping I didn't make them too hard, but maybe I did.
They weren't too hard. I'm just that bad.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right, now. You too. Thanks.